Welcome back to the channel today. We're going to dive deep into everything you need to know about the 1967 Washington quarter, its history, how to identify its unique features, the reason it was struck without a mint mark, and how some of these quarters have turned out to be worth a surprising fortune to those lucky enough to find one. So, sit back and get ready for an incredible journey through coin history that might make you look at your pocket change in a whole new way. The story of the 1967 Washington quarter begins during a time of major change in the U.S. coinage system. Just 2 years earlier, in 1965, the United States Mint made one of the biggest transitions in its history. It stopped using silver in circulating dimes, quarters, and half dollars. Before 1965, quarters were composed of 90% silver and 10% copper. However, due to a nationwide silver shortage and rising silver prices, the U.S. government decided to switch to a copper-nickel plaid composition for the quarters starting in 1965. This decision changed not only the metal content of coins but also their entire production process. By 1967, the U.S. Mint was still adjusting to these new materials and methods. The Mint was also dealing with massive public hoarding of older silver coins, as Americans rushed to hold on to pre-1965 quarters, dimes, and half dollars, believing they would increase in value, which, of course, they did. To keep up with the demand for circulating coins, the Mint had to ramp up production drastically. One of the most unique aspects of the 1967 Washington quarter is that it was struck without a mint mark. Normally, coins include a mint mark to show where they were made, such as D4 Denver or S4 San Francisco. However, during 1965, 1966, and 1967, the Mint decided to remove all mint marks from U.S. coins. This was done to discourage collectors from hoarding new coins based on their mint of origin, as the Mint was struggling to meet the demand for circulating coinage. As a result, all 1967 Washington quarters look the same, with no mint mark visible under Washington's neck, even though they were struck at multiple mints, including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. This lack of mint mark makes 1967 a fascinating year for collectors. It symbolizes a time of transition and adaptation within the Mint and the nation itself. But that's not the only reason the 1967 Washington quarter has caught the attention of coin enthusiasts over the years. Let's talk about the design. The obverse side of the 1967 Washington quarter features the familiar and dignified portrait of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan. This design was first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of Washington's birth and became a permanent fixture of the quarter ever since. Washington faces left, his expression strong and noble, representing leadership and patriotism. The word liberty is boldly inscribed above his head, while the motto, "In God We Trust," appears to the left. The date 1967 is placed at the bottom, marking its year of minting. On the reverse side, the eagle design continues to shine with symbolic detail. The eagle is perched on a bundle of arrows, representing strength and readiness to defend freedom, while two olive branches rest beneath, symbolizing peace. The inscriptions United States of America and E Pluribus Unum appear above the eagle, while quarter dollar is displayed prominently below. This design remained unchanged from 1932 until the state quarters program began in 1999, making it one of the most iconic images in U.S. coinage. Now let's talk about the composition. The 1967 Washington quarter is made of a copper-nickel plaid composition, consisting of an outer layer of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core. The coin has a diameter of 24.3 millimeters and weighs about 5.67 grams. Though it lacks the silver content of earlier quarters, it represents a pivotal moment in coin-making technology. When it comes to production, the U.S. Mint struck an enormous number of these coins, over 1.5 billion quarters in 1967 alone. Because of this large mintage, the majority of 1967 quarters are still relatively common in circulation today. You can find them in your spare change, coin jars, or even old rolls of coins from banks. However, what truly makes the 1967 Washington quarter fascinating is that some rare varieties and errors can be worth a small fortune. Some of the most valuable 1967 quarters are those struck with exceptional quality. These are known as special mint set coins or SMS coins. Since the Mint did not produce proof sets in 1967, they instead issued special mint sets that contained higher quality coins with a satin-like finish. These SMS quarters were produced with extra care and detail, giving them a sharper, more refined appearance. Collectors prize these coins, especially those with strong strikes, smooth surfaces, and deep cameo contrast between the raised design and the fields, but the real excitement comes from error coins. The 1967 Washington quarter is known to have several unique minting errors that make certain examples extremely valuable. For instance, there are 1,967 quarters struck on the wrong planchet, such as a dime planchet, which makes them smaller and lighter than normal. There are also off-center strikes, double strikes, and die clashes that occurred during minting. These mint errors can make a common coin worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars, depending on how dramatic and well-preserved the error is. Collectors are always on the lookout for the rare 1967 quarters with exceptional details and mint errors, especially those graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC. A high-grade 1967 Washington quarter in mint state condition, especially with a flawless surface and strong luster, can command a significant premium. The condition of the coin is one of the biggest factors affecting its value. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with higher grades indicating better condition. Most 1967 quarters you'll find in circulation are in lower grades, typically showing heavy wear from decades of use. However, finding a coin in uncirculated condition or one that has been carefully preserved since the year it was minted can make all the difference. Mint state coins, especially those graded MS66, MS67, or higher, can be worth a lot to collectors. One interesting feature collectors look for in the 1967 Washington quarter is the quality of the strike. Because of the high-speed production during this period, many coins were struck with worn dies, resulting in softer or less distinct details. However, a 1967 quarter with crisp, sharp lines, strong hair details on Washington's portrait, and a fully detailed eagle on the reverse is a rare find. These coins often fetch much higher prices at auction. The market for 1967 Washington quarters has remained steady over the years, with prices increasing for coins in top condition or with unique characteristics. What makes this coin so special is not just its age or composition, but the history it represents, a turning point in American coinage and the ingenuity of the U.S. Mint to overcome challenges during a time of transition. When you hold a 1967 quarter in your hand, you're holding a piece of American history that symbolizes resilience and progress. It's a coin that has been through over 5 decades of change, commerce, and culture. Some of these quarters have traveled across generations, passing through countless hands, and yet, a few remain in pristine, untouched condition, waiting for someone to rediscover their hidden value. Collectors and treasure hunters love stories like this because they remind us that even ordinary-looking coins can have extraordinary worth. It's what makes the hobby of coin collecting so fascinating. Every coin tells a story, and sometimes, that story comes with a surprising financial reward. So, the next time you come across an old 1967 Washington quarter in your pocket change, take a closer look. Examine its surface, check for any unusual markings, and look at its details. You never know, you might be holding a coin that's far more valuable than you think. The U.S. Mint's decision to remove mint marks, change metal compositions, and issue special mint sets during that time created a mix of variations that make these coins truly collectible. From mint errors to high-grade examples, the 1967 Washington quarter remains a favorite among numismatists. Coin collectors often say that the thrill of discovery is one of the best parts of the hobby. You could have a small piece of American history sitting unnoticed in your change jar, and that's what makes collecting so magical. Whether you're a beginner or a seasoned collector, the 1967 Washington quarter is a must-have coin for any collection, not just for its beauty, but for the incredible story it tells about American history and innovation. In the world of coin collecting, it's always worth remembering that rarity, condition, and demand are the 3 main pillars that determine a coin's value. The 1967 Washington quarter checks all these boxes in unique ways. Its high mintage makes it accessible, but its rare varieties and exceptional mint errors make it a coin worth searching for. We're going to take you on an amazing journey back to the year 1970, a time of change, innovation, and unexpected discoveries in American coin history. Because the 1970 Washington quarter dollar coin isn't just a regular piece of pocket change, it's one of the most fascinating coins ever produced by the United States Mint, and some of these quarters are now worth a staggering fortune. So stay tuned till the end of this video, because you won't believe how one small minting detail turned this ordinary-looking coin into a collector's dream worth tens of thousands of dollars today. Let's begin our journey into the world of the 1970 Washington quarter. The story behind the 1970 Washington quarter. The Washington quarter series began in 1932, created to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Designed by sculptor John Flanagan, this coin quickly became one of the most recognizable and circulated pieces of U.S. currency. By 1970, the coin had already gone through several design adjustments and changes in metal composition. Before 1965, quarters were made of 90% silver and 10% copper. However, due to the rising cost of silver, the US Mint decided to switch to a copper-nickel clad composition, the same kind that's used today. So the 1970 D Washington quarter was part of this new era. It was struck at the Denver Mint, marked by the small D mint mark on the obverse side of the coin, right next to Washington's hair ribbon. This mint mark tells us that the coin was produced in Denver, Colorado, one of the most active mints in the country. But what makes this coin so special? Why are collectors so obsessed with the 1970 D quarter? To understand that, we need to look a little deeper into the hidden secrets, errors, and mysteries surrounding this coin. A year of change and coin experiments. The 1970s were a fascinating time for American coin production. The US Mint was experimenting with new materials, testing new machinery, and pushing to produce coins more efficiently than ever before. During this period, millions of quarters were minted at both the Philadelphia and Denver facilities. The 1970 D quarters were struck in enormous numbers, over 417 million coins, to be exact. That's why, at first glance, you might think this coin is quite common, but among those hundreds of millions, there are a few rare and incredibly valuable varieties, and those are the ones that have captured the attention of collectors for decades. One of the most talked about versions of the 1970 D quarter is the 1970 D quarter struck on a 1941 Canadian quarter planchet, a true minting error that became famous worldwide. Imagine that, a coin from Canada accidentally finding its way into the presses of the US Mint, struck with an American design right over it. That's not just a mistake, it's a piece of numismatic history, the legendary mint error, a coin that shouldn't exist now. Let's talk about the 1970 D Washington quarter that's unlike any other. In 2016, a collector made headlines when they discovered a 1970 D Washington quarter that had been mistakenly struck over a 1941 Canadian quarter. Under magnification, you could actually see faint traces of the Canadian design, including parts of the word Canada and the image of King George VI underneath the American design. This incredible minting error wasn't just rare, it was almost impossible to make such a coin. A leftover blank or planchet from another country's coin must have somehow been mixed into the batch at the Denver Mint. The machines then stamped the Washington design right over it, creating one of the most unique and sought-after error coins ever seen. When this coin was put up for auction, collectors from all around the world rushed to place bids, knowing this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The final selling price shocked everyone. It sold for tens of thousands of dollars, making it one of the most valuable modern quarters ever. But that's not the only reason collectors seek the 1970 D quarter. There are also several rare die varieties and minting mistakes that make specific examples of this coin incredibly valuable, common errors that turn ordinary coins into hidden fortunes. Let's look at some of the most interesting and valuable error varieties that exist for the 1970 D Washington quarter. Off-center strikes. These are coins where the design wasn't properly aligned when struck. A small off-center strike might make a coin interesting, but one that's 50% or more off-center can make it worth hundreds of dollars, even thousands if it's in mint condition. Double die obverse, DDO. This type of error occurs when the coin's die accidentally strikes the design twice, slightly misaligned. On a 1970 D quarter, if you notice doubling in the lettering like Liberty or In God We Trust, you might have a valuable treasure on your hands. Clipped planchets. A clipped planchet means a small portion of the coin's edge is missing due to a cutting error at the mint. Depending on the size and placement of the clip, these coins can fetch surprising prices in the collector market. Transitional errors. These are extremely rare and occur when a coin is struck using a metal composition intended for another year or denomination. Though extremely scarce, transitional errors are among the most prized discoveries in the world of coin collecting. Proof-like strikes. Some 1970 D quarters were struck with unusually high detail and mirror-like finishes, almost resembling proof coins. These are rare and can be worth much more than their regular counterparts. All these varieties show how even a tiny imperfection can transform an ordinary coin into a numismatic masterpiece. Design details and symbolism. Now, let's take a closer look at the design that makes this coin timeless. The obverse side features the familiar and noble profile of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan. His calm expression and the fine details of his hair represent leadership and dignity, a tribute to the first president of the United States. The inscriptions on the obverse read Liberty at the top and In God We Trust to the left. Below Washington's chin, you'll find the year 1970 and the mint mark D just to the right of his ponytail. That tiny letter is what connects your coin to the Denver Mint and possibly to a small fortune. Flip the coin to the reverse side, and you'll find a majestic bald eagle with outstretched wings perched on a bundle of arrows, symbolizing strength and readiness to defend freedom. Below the arrows are two olive branches, representing peace. Around the coin's outer edge are the words United States of America and E pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one, followed by the denomination $quarter at the bottom. Every detail on this coin tells a story of America's spirit, craftsmanship, and history. How to identify a valuable 1970 D quarter? So, if you're wondering whether the 1970 D Washington quarter in your possession might be valuable, here's what to look for. Check the mint mark. Make sure there's a clear D mint mark on the obverse side. Inspect for errors. Use a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe to examine for doubling, misstrikes, or other visible irregularities. Look for the Canadian planchet error. This is the most famous and valuable version. Under magnification, faint traces of another coin's design beneath the Washington image can be seen. Examine the condition. Coins in pristine, uncirculated, or proof-like condition are always worth more than those with heavy wear or scratches. Get it professionally graded. If you believe your coin could be special, send it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. Their authentication adds significant value. A certified and graded coin can dramatically increase in price when sold at auction or to collectors. Market value and collector demand. Now let's talk about what everyone wants to know, the value. The average 1970 D quarter in circulated condition is typically worth its face value of 25 cents. However, when you find one in mint state condition, the price starts to climb significantly. A coin with strong details, original luster, and no visible wear can fetch anywhere from a few dollars to several $100s depending on the grade. But when you add a minting error or a special variety to the mix, especially something as extraordinary as the Canadian planchet mistake, that's when the real magic happens. Collectors and investors alike hunt for these unique treasures because they represent history, rarity, and mystery all in one small silver-colored disc. Why collectors love the 1970 D quarter? There's something magical about a coin that carries both history and a secret. The 1970 D quarter captures that spirit perfectly. It's a symbol of an era when the mint was transitioning, experimenting, and sometimes, unknowingly creating masterpieces. For collectors, owning a coin like this is more than just a hobby. It's holding a piece of American heritage that survived through decades of change. The 1970 D quarter represents the idea that even the smallest things, something as simple as a coin, can hide unimaginable value. Now imagine holding in your hand a shiny Washington quarter minted in Denver in 1981. It looks like an ordinary coin, something you might toss into a vending machine or drop in a parking meter without a second thought. But what if I told you that one of these coins, struck that same year, has been sold for a jaw-dropping amount of money, turning heads in the numismatic world? That's right, the 1981 D Washington quarter might look common, but certain rare examples have stunned collectors with their incredible value and beauty. To understand why, we first need to look at where this coin comes from and what makes it special. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th birthday of George Washington, the first president of the United States. Designed by sculptor John Flanagan, the coin featured a left-facing bust of Washington on the obverse, with the word Liberty above and the motto, "In God We Trust," just to the left of his chin. The reverse side carried the iconic bald eagle, wings spread, clutching a bundle of arrows with olive branches beneath, a design that symbolized America's strength and peace. By the time 1981 arrived, this design had been circulating for nearly 50 years, making it one of the most recognized pieces of U.S. currency. But the 1981 D quarter, minted in Denver, carried its own significance. It was produced just before the U.S. Mint began experimenting with different planchet materials and updated minting processes that would later lead to modern errors and varieties. The Denver Mint, known for its D mint mark, struck over 356 million Washington quarters that year. On paper, that might sound like a huge number, and it is. With such a massive mintage, one might think there's nothing rare about it. But rarity in coin collecting isn't always about how many were made, it's about how many survive today in pristine, uncirculated condition, and how many display unique characteristics that separate them from the rest. Among those millions of 1981 D quarters, there are coins that were struck with exceptional sharpness, showing perfect details in Washington's hair, the eagle's feathers, and the lettering around the rim. Some examples also exhibit a deep mirror-like surface, called a proof-like strike, which makes them shimmer under light. These are the kind of features collectors love. Then there are the error coins, the unintentional masterpieces of the minting world. Imagine a quarter that was struck slightly off-center, with part of the design missing, or one struck on the wrong planchet, such as a copper-nickel clad layer that didn't bond properly. These minting mistakes, though accidental, can turn a common coin into a fortune. One of the most famous types of errors found on 1981 D quarters includes die cracks, double dies, and off-center strikes. A double die, for example, happens when the coin's design is impressed twice on the die at slightly different angles, creating a ghost-like doubling effect on the lettering or date. These errors are highly sought after because they're both visually striking and incredibly rare. Collectors who have found these pieces have reported selling them for hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on the grade and visibility of the error. But one coin, graded in flawless mint condition, stood out among all others, and that's the one that fetched the record-breaking value we'll reveal later in this story. To appreciate why these coins can reach such heights, we also need to understand how grading works. Every coin's value is determined by its grade, a measure of how well it has been preserved since it was struck. Professional grading companies like PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Company, examine coins under magnification, checking for scratches, wear, luster, and sharpness of details. The highest grade a coin can achieve is mint state 70, MS70, meaning it's flawless under 5x magnification. Even a single microscopic scratch can lower that grade to MS69 or MS68. So, for a 1981 D quarter to reach MS67 or above is truly extraordinary, considering how most coins were used daily and suffered wear from circulation. Now, think about how many of those 356 million coins could have possibly survived in nearly perfect condition. The answer is, very few. That scarcity is what fuels the market value. Collectors are willing to pay top dollar for the best preserved examples because they represent a piece of history frozen in time, a coin that survived decades without a single blemish. But what also makes 1981 so intriguing for collectors is its place in numismatic history. It marked one of the last years before the Washington quarter saw significant design changes in the following decades. After 1981, the mint began preparing for the transition to new technology and designs that would eventually lead to the 1999 State Quarters program, which revolutionized coin collecting in America. The 1981 D Washington quarter stands as a symbol of the end of an era, the final years of the traditional Washington design before modern minting took over. And that nostalgia, combined with rarity and condition, gives it an undeniable charm. When collectors look for a 1981 D quarter, they pay attention to specific details. The mint mark D on the obverse, just to the right of Washington's ponytail, indicates it was minted in Denver. The coin's composition is a copper-nickel clad, a layer of copper sandwiched between two outer layers of nickel. Its total weight is about 5.67 grams, and its diameter measures 24.3 millimeters. On most coins, these details may sound ordinary, but small variations can dramatically influence the coin's worth. For example, a coin with full mint luster, a bright, almost glassy shine, and no contact marks will be much more valuable than one that's dull or lightly worn. In addition, some 1981 D quarters were struck with slightly misaligned dies, leading to thicker or thinner rims, especially around the Liberty and In God We Trust areas. When these minor variations are discovered, collectors rush to acquire them, knowing how quickly the value can skyrocket once verified. Now let's talk about the market itself. The world of coin collecting is full of surprises. Prices fluctuate depending on demand, rarity, and condition. Even a small difference in grade, say from MS65 to MS66, can double or triple the coin's market value. That's how intense the demand is for coins in top condition. Over the years, auction houses like Heritage Auctions and Stacksbowers have seen bidding wars for high-grade Washington quarters, and the 1981 D has certainly had its moment in the spotlight. Collectors recognize it as a transitional year coin, with a strong historical footprint and an appealing design that has stood the test of time. Many people have even found these coins in pocket change without realizing their hidden value. Imagine checking your loose coins, spotting a 1981 D quarter, and discovering later that it's worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars because of its mint condition or a rare die variety. That's the thrill of coin collecting, turning everyday change into hidden treasure. And here's something fascinating: the 1981 D quarter is not just valuable in its top grades, but it also holds sentimental and historical importance. It's a reminder of a time when American coins were still made with careful craftsmanship before high-speed presses and automation changed the minting landscape. It connects generations of collectors, from those who started in the 20th century to the new wave of digital era enthusiasts today. What's the highest known value for a 1981 D Washington quarter? Drumroll, please. Point 1. Pristine example of the 1981 D Washington quarter, certified in exceptional mint state condition, sold for an astonishing amount, a figure that left collectors speechless and cemented this coin's place in numismatic history. That coin was valued at $30,250. Yes, you heard that right. A simple quarter, worth just 25 cents in face value, reached an unbelievable worth when graded and sold to an eager collector. It's a perfect example of why you should never underestimate the coin sitting in your change jar. Every coin has a story, a past, and sometimes, a fortune waiting to be discovered. Today, we're diving deep into the story of one of the most fascinating pieces of American change, the 1984 Mint Mark Washington $quarter coin. This unassuming 25-cent piece might look like any other quarter rattling around in your pocket, but under the right circumstances, it could be worth far more than you'd ever expect. When we talk about the 1984 Washington quarter, we're looking at a coin that carries not just face value, but a story that connects history, minting technology, and hidden treasure. This coin has captured the attention of collectors all over the United States, and for good reason. Some of these coins are now valued in the thousands, and one exceptional example reached an astonishing figure that no one could have predicted. To understand the true value of the 1984 quarter, let's first travel back to the mid-1980s. It was a time of major change in America. The music, the fashion, and even the economy were rapidly evolving. The U.S. Mint, operating out of its key facilities, was busy producing billions of coins each year to meet the demands of commerce. And among those coins, the Philadelphia Mint struck millions of Washington quarters, proudly carrying the small letter P just beside George Washington's ponytail, a mint mark that tells the story of its origin. The Philadelphia Mint, one of the oldest and most active in the nation, produced a staggering 676 million Washington quarters in 1984. With such a large number, you might wonder, how could any single one of these coins become special or valuable? The secret lies in the details. Mint errors, condition, rarity and high grades, and collector demand all play a role in transforming an everyday coin into a valuable treasure. The design of the 1984 Washington quarter remains true to the legacy started in 1932, when sculptor John Flanagan's portrait of George Washington was chosen to celebrate the 200th anniversary of the first president's birth. The obverse, or front, displays Washington's distinguished profile, while the reverse features the majestic eagle with outstretched wings, clutching arrows and olive branches, a powerful symbol of strength and peace. However, in 1984, many of these coins were struck using worn or slightly misaligned dies, resulting in noticeable differences in sharpness and detail. Some coins show weak strikes where Washington's hairlines and facial features appear faint or blurry, while others display doubling or die cracks, mint errors that can dramatically increase a coin's value to collectors. Let's talk about what truly separates a valuable 1984 quarter from a regular one you might find in your spare change. The first factor is condition. Coins that have been in circulation for years often show signs of wear, scratches, fading luster, and dull surfaces. But uncirculated coins, especially those graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC, can achieve high prices if they exhibit full luster, sharp details, and perfect surfaces. Collectors use a grading scale known as the Sheldon scale, which ranges from 1 to 70. A coin graded MS-60 means mint state, but with some minor imperfections. An MS-65 is considered gem quality, and MS-67 or higher represents near perfection, coins that appear almost flawless under magnification. The higher the grade, the rarer and more valuable the coin becomes. For the 1984 quarter, examples found in lower circulated grades might be worth just their face value of 25 cents. But once you move into higher uncirculated grades, the story changes completely. In Mint State 65, these coins can command several dollars. At Mint State 66, values can rise into the tens or even hundreds, depending on demand and luster quality. And for the finest known examples, those graded MS-67 or higher, the price jumps into the thousands. What makes the 1984 quarter especially exciting for collectors are the varieties and minting errors that occurred during production. One of the most famous is the double die obverse, where the lettering on the coin, such as the word Liberty or In God We Trust, appears slightly doubled due to a misalignment in the die during striking. These doubled features can be faint or dramatic, and the more pronounced the doubling, the more valuable the coin. Another intriguing error seen on some 1984 quarters is the clipped planchet, where a portion of the coin's edge appears to be cut off due to an error in the blanking process. There are also off-center strikes, where the design is misaligned, leaving part of the coin blank, and die cracks, where small raised lines appear due to damage in the die. These anomalies transform a standard 25-cent coin into a piece of minting history, sought after by serious error collectors. Now, let's move to the heart of what every collector wants to know: the value. Over the years, the 1984 Washington quarter has been carefully examined, and while most remain common, a few have broken records in auctions. Some collectors have discovered pristine examples in sealed mint sets that were never handled, preserving their original luster for decades. These untouched coins can fetch impressive prices. In 2021, for example, one exceptional 1984 P Washington quarter graded by PCGS as MS67 sold for thousands of dollars due to its perfect strike, beautiful silver-like sheen, and complete lack of contact marks. The rarity of such a high-grade example made it a star among collectors, but that's not all. The combination of rarity, demand, and condition has pushed some of these coins into astonishing territory. Imagine finding a coin in your change that looks completely ordinary, yet when viewed under the right light and inspected by experts, it turns out to be a once-in-a-lifetime discovery worth more than many people earn in a month. This is what makes coin collecting so thrilling. Every coin in your wallet tells a story, and sometimes, that story is worth a fortune. So if you happen to come across a 1984 Washington quarter with a P mint mark, don't overlook it. Take a close look under good lighting. Examine the edges, check for doubling, and notice the shine. If you see a quarter that looks unusually sharp or well struck, it might be worth submitting to a grading service for evaluation. Collectors often recommend storing these coins properly using non-PVC holders, capsules, or certified slabs to prevent damage from air, moisture, and fingerprints. The difference between a lightly handled coin and one preserved perfectly can mean hundreds or even thousands of dollars in value, and it's not just about the money. The 1984 Washington quarter connects us to a time when coins were crafted with precision and pride, carrying symbols of American ideals in every strike. Each quarter is a tiny work of art, and each mint mark tells a part of the story of our nation's coinage. Beyond their monetary value, coins like the 1984 P quarter hold sentimental and historical worth. They remind us of the craftsmanship that went into their design and the countless hands they've passed through. From vending machines to cash registers, from pocket change to prized collections, these coins have traveled through history, silently witnessing decades of change. For numismatists or coin enthusiasts, the thrill lies in the hunt. Scouring coin rolls, visiting flea markets, attending auctions, every search brings the chance of discovering a gem hiding in plain sight. And yes, it still happens today. Some collectors have stumbled upon near-mint 1984 P quarters in circulation, finding a piece of history for mere cents. As time passes, coins from the 1980s are gradually becoming scarcer in high grades, especially those that survived without wear or damage. This natural process of attrition, where coins are lost, melted, or worn down, makes pristine examples increasingly valuable each year. And while not every 1984 quarter will make you rich, the possibility that one might be special adds an undeniable excitement to collecting. Each coin you check, each roll you search, could hold the next big discovery. If you're new to collecting, the 1984 P Washington quarter is a great place to start. It's a coin that teaches you how to identify mint marks, recognize errors, and appreciate condition. And for experienced collectors, it's a reminder that even modern-era coins can hold incredible surprises. So next time you're counting change or going through an old coin jar, take a careful look at those quarters. You might just be holding a piece of hidden history, one that carries more than 2 centuries of American legacy, and potentially, a fortune waiting to be found.